Welcome back, everybody. Today we're learning about functions. Okay, in lesson 9, we're kind of doing an explore slash investigate all in one little section, all in one little code.org part here. Objective to modify programs that declare and call functions. We'll explain what the heck that means in a minute here. Now, one of the biggest takeaways that you're hopefully going to get as a programmer from this course is that repeated code bad. Okay, repeating code in your program is bad. Let's take a look at an example here. I've got a pretty simple program that has a variable called count. We'll start at 0. And then there's a up button and a down button. The up button raises the count by 1. The down button lowers the count by 1. And then both these programs do some things to set kind of some characteristics on the screen or update some stuff on the screen. It sets the count label to count, plays a sound, and then checks to see if count's within a certain range. And if it's out of that range, it looks like it's going to set the label to red. Okay, we have the same thing happening on the down button. Okay, it sets the count label, plays a sound, and then uses a conditional to determine if it sets a label to red or not. Okay, what we have here is some repeated code on both these different functions, or both these different event handlers. Now, repeated code, it's bad for a few reasons. Number one, it takes longer to type. Okay, it stinks having to type or drag and drop the same things over and over again. Number two, it actually makes your program longer and more complicated than it needs to be. Now, this is a pretty simple example where, yeah, we could copy and paste. It's not too big of a deal to copy these kind of chunks of code down more than once. But if we get into a program with a lot of different buttons, 10 buttons, 20 buttons, 100 buttons, it's a pain dealing with this repeated part over and over again. All right, since repeated code is bad, that's why we're going to introduce the idea of a function. Okay, I'm going to say a function in programming is just a named group of programming instructions. Okay, so it's a way to take a chunk of code that's going to get used more than once, wrap it up in with a name, and then easily call it throughout your program without repeating that code. So there's going to be two steps to using functions in programming. Step one is going to be to define the function. And with this, we want to write the commands that you want the function to do and give it a meaningful name. The way we'll do that in JavaScript is we'll use a function block. We'll tell JavaScript we're defining a function, and we'll give it a name. In this case, we'll say update screen, because that's what this function does, updates the stuff on the screen. And then what I can do is I can take each of those those blocks of code, they're going to get repeated, and just place it with this function block, and that gives me a function that will do this stuff as many times as I want. Step two then is going to be actually call the function. So we'll just type out the name of the function followed by the parentheses. And again, the idea is I can call this function as many times as I want, and with a single line of code here, I'm going to get all those different commands I had within that function definition. All right, so here's that program we looked at to begin with, rewritten using functions. I've got my function definition right here with all the stuff I want to do to update the screen. And then rather having all those 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of codes every time I want it in the program, I'll just call that update screen function here and here. Okay, and again, it saves a lot of retyping stuff. Okay, it makes my program shorter. And again, this is a pretty simple case, but if I had a lot of different buttons, this would really make life easier just calling update screen rather than retyping all these different lines of code here. All right, so let's jump into code.org and see functions in action here. So right now I'm on lesson 9, the functions explore, investigate. Okay, to start off with, we have a program that's basically just going to console log a bunch of song lyrics for us. So instructions say run the program, see how it works, pay attention to what happens when the program sings the chorus. So let's hit run. And it's going to go through line by line, putting down those lyrics. Trying to think of what song this is actually here. And then as I get to this part where we have chorus, okay, which would be repeated lyrics, notice I have a call to the function sing chorus. And when that call gets hit, we jump all the way down to the actual sing chorus function, the definition. It runs through there, jumps back up to where the call is again, goes and finds the definition towards the bottom of our code, sings the chorus essentially, and then goes back to continuing through the rest of the verses. I believe we're kind of missing the choruses as we go, or we're missing a couple of the choruses. Okay, so add code to make the program sing the chorus. There are comments to tell you where to add it. Okay, so as I go through this song, we've got verse 1, sing chorus. All right, here's verse 2. We want the chorus after that verse. So what I'll do then is I will just grab the function block. Okay, that function is called sing chorus. Did I spell that right? Whoops, there's a H in it. Reset to make that go away. It looks like we repeat the chorus. And again, the beautiful thing about a function is I don't have to rewrite those song lyrics over and over again. Now I can just scroll through my program, and anytime I want to add that chorus, we'll copy it in, add that chorus, and that's going to play this definition right here. Okay, so now if I ran this program again, I get the whole song with the choruses mixed in. Next thing we got is a video built in. The first part of it, the first guy who talks gives a real good analogy for how functions work in coding. I'd say pause me, watch that. Once this lady comes up though, she's going to talk about some stuff that we haven't done. It's from an old curriculum. I'd say watch the first guy, it's worth it. Skip the lady. Then you can kind of continue with me on the next slide here. All right, in level 4, we've got a function pretty similar to the one we just showed you in the PowerPoint. Okay, where there's an up button, down button. They both call an update screen function. And notice I actually have that call happening before anything else gets going, okay, in front of the down event handlers. And then the definition is pretty simple. It's going to display the count. It's going to check and see where our count's at. And if it's greater than or equal to 10 or less than or equal to -5, we're going to switch to a game over screen, and it's going to show a final score. Okay, so the way this works here, I'm going to speed this up, is as I count up and down, okay, each of the count button is adding 1 or subtracting 1, and then updating the screen based on this definition here. And if I count too high, if I get above 10, we get to the winner screen. Okay, we get this chunk of code within the conditional running. Okay, we got a few things to do. Change the program to make the game end when the score is greater than 15. And also change the program to make the game score end when the score is less than -10. Well, to do that, even though that's going to happen within the buttons, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come down to my function definition and make the changes here. So we'll say this game ends when we get greater than 15 or less than -10. Okay, so by changing that function definition is going to change the way my program runs based on the actual function calls. So now I've got to get up above 15 before that game actually ends. All right, what else can we do? Change the program to make it display the word clicks after the count as you play the game. For example, it should say 5 clicks or 10 clicks instead of just 5 or 10. So if I reset and run this, notice it just gives me a number. I want to include the clicks. So once again, we'll go down to our function definition. Okay, set text display in the count display label. I'm going to go count, okay, plus the string clicks. And I suppose I'm going to put a space there so there's a space in between the count and the clicks. Now when I run, notice right off the bat when it did that update screen, it put the clicks in there, and then it's going to count up and down with the clicks. Okay, feel free to pause the video, play around with this one more if you want to. Again, the idea here is if I change the definition of my function, it's going to change what happens in that program when we make the call of that function in each of these spots here. All right, so we have one more app we're going to investigate here. Okay, let's get rid of the instructions and the blocks so I can kind of see what's going on here. Okay, it looks like it's going to be a game where we have some type of score and lives. And on the beginning screen, when I click the play button, it's going to set the score to 0, lives to 3. And then what this one has going on here is it's going to grab a username and a password from the drop-down and the text input. And then basically it's going to check and see if the username is Lemonhead and the password is Lemon123. It's going to go to the game screen. Okay, or if the username is Sour Power and the password's I Love Lemons, it'll go to the game screen. Otherwise, it's going to do nothing. It's just going to leave us stuck on this screen here. So let's start running this game here. Lemonhead, if I put in a bad password, I get nothing. With Lemonhead, if I do Lemon123, should actually take us to a screen where we can play. And this is the type of game where we've seen where something moves around based on whether my mouse is over. So if I have the mouse over the lemon, it's going to add to the score. It's going to check and see if we've won. If the score is greater than 15, the score is greater than 10. It's going to move it differently and change the size. Okay, it's going to set things to a random position. That's what's happening here. And then the limes button looks like if I'm over that, score will go down by 1. It's going to set things to a random position. And then also reset the label for what the score and what the lives are. Okay, and then it'll check and see if lives are 0. Looks like it's going to end the game. Okay, let's see what we have for tasks here. Do this. Look inside the event handlers for the lemon and the lime to find the repeated code. Okay, replace the repeated code blocks with a single function called update screen that you declare once but call twice. Okay, so again, similar to what we've done before. Let's remind you how to do that. We'll do the definition in action. So I'm going to hit my function button. And at the bottom of my app, I'm going to define a new function. Let it reset here, that we're going to call update screen once again. Okay, and what do we want this function to do? Well, we want it to do all the stuff that's repeated between these two apps here, or between these two buttons. And there's some differences between it, but it looks like the big repeated part is this moving stuff to random positions, and then also displaying the score and lives. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag over that and copy it, so Control C. I'm then going to go down to my function definition and Control V, paste it. So now anytime I call update screen, it's going to do this stuff here. So what I can do then is I can delete this in my code and then just call update screen. And they'll have the same effect as the code I just deleted. We can do the same thing for the lemon button. Okay, so now I essentially have the same app. Okay, but with some reduced repeated code in it. Level 6 just has a slide that kind of sums up that building a update screen function pattern that we've been talking about this lesson. So feel free to pause the video and read through that. And then level 7 just has a question to answer. Make sure you read through that, put some thought into that, answer best you can. If you want to go back and play around with some of those other apps that we worked on already and the functions to them, feel free to do that. Okay, otherwise, we will see you in class and kind of put the functions to work. Actually have you create your own and call your own when we get back.